How is everybody tonight?
Wow.
All right,
Breathing.
everybody happy? All right, we don't have minutes yet, and that's okay. They're long minutes, we don't expect them. Mayor, any communication other than what's on the agenda?
Yes.
okay.
For tomorrow during mayor communication, but I just wanted to respond to Councilor Kuzinski's question around city vehicles. Everything that can be and should be registered through the RMV, it's 118. But we'll get you a detailed print. We found a couple of vehicles that some were registered, some were not, so we're just updating the Maya list.
Thank you. Can I ask who this is?
Director of Technology.
Our
Pardon me?
IT director.
Oh, I didn't know about this. What are we doing?
We were going to do a PowerPoint, but I have printed the slides, so if you want me just to share those.
Oh, well, I just didn't know. Okay, no, that's fine. You could share the slides or do it that
What
way.
would be easier for you?
We're gonna get right into it.
Allison, they're pretty small, so if you could show them, it would be.
Might be better on that.
Yeah, I think so, because if you
Okay.
look at that, that's pretty tiny.
Yeah, you know, some
So,
of our eyes can't handle small print.
Well-
I don't know if that'll make it to the television.
I'll turn off, how do we get the, you have to project that?
Yeah, I think you want to project it, so I guess you put it up on that end, you get on the TV.
It might not show all of it, but some of it.
I think that's fine where it is because I'm a little worried about getting done today.
Yeah,
If it
So
was
let's-
just a handout, we wouldn't be able to
If
see
you-
it. True.
Yeah, so that's fine.
So why don't we do the handout and that?
Yeah.
And we can start with the handout as soon as it's ready.
All right.
What I'd like to do is get everybody, let Allison go ahead and do your presentation, and then I'll open it up for questions from the counselors, if that's okay.
That's perfect, thank you, Mr. Minister.
I'll give him a couple more minutes to go ahead and,
Yeah, and I can start. Thank you, first of all, for allowing us to attend this evening, I appreciate it.
allowing you for, it's
We appreciate the
necessary.
opportunity to talk to you
Well,
about
this
our
is right,
budget.
this is your first budget with us.
Yes,
We're really not mean, we really like the school.
that's good, because I've heard stories.
That's only about JP.
It's true, I have a good reputation of asking
So
lots of
I
questions.
just have a few slides that highlight our budget for you and give you a little bit.
Let me turn off the lights on that side of the room then.
A little bit of a perspective of our school district and kind of where we've come from and where we're going. And so, just to start off, this is our budget presentation, and the second slide is what we call an educational wordle. And I took our mission statement, which has been our long-standing mission statement, and I could have given it to you in the regular format that you've probably seen a million times, but I put it into a Wordle. And what struck me is that the center word is student, which is the focus of everything that we do and every decision that we make in our school district. And all of the other words around it are things that impact the student's education. So I just wanted to point that out to you, and that comes directly from our mission statement. And,
Is he ready to show the slide?
It's warming up.
oh, okay.
And he's getting the computer to plug it in.
Okay, so I'll keep going. So we also, in East Hampton, we have a vision statement, a long-standing vision statement. Again, these are not new tools, they're not new pieces of information that you've never seen before, but this is what we say we are committed to in the East Hampton Public Schools. We are committed to a highly qualified staff. We are committed to state-of-the-art resources, a rich and rigorous learning experience, and a welcoming, inclusive, and safe environment. Those are the minimums that we ensure our students that they're going to have when they come to the East Hampton Public Schools. I don't think those are any extravagant items. I think they're the least that parents should expect when they come into any of our school buildings. So those are the things that we hold in high esteem. On slide 4, I would just point out to you that we're in a unique situation in East Hampton. We are one of the only school districts in Western Mass that is growing. Our population is growing, and all of our
You mean the
neighbors,
student population?
the student
Is that
population,
because of choice?
it is, some of it is choice, but some of it is students that are actually just
There
moving
you
into
go, enrollment
residences
data.
in our community. So our data has been going up, and all of our neighbors are very shocked by this.
Can you tell me, I'm sorry, do you mind if I ask questions as we go along?
Please.
Is this the younger?
Yes.
The younger
Yes.
K-12 kids, or mostly that you're seeing
We're
the
seeing it in
population,
our
or people moving
elementary
into?
schools, young children that we anticipate we're going to have for years and years and years.
Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Nicole?
Mayor?
I'm just wondering on the uptick in students, which is exciting, especially since they're young. Are we seeing an increase also in that age group of students who are going charter or choice?
Actually, our charter and choice numbers going out of the district have been going down.
Oh, thank God.
So more student, and we have an increase in the number of children that are coming in. Am I right, Dale, in my numbers?
Correct.
Yeah, and
I
we
have a
have.
follow-up question
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
So is the 8.3% increase in our assessments under charter and
That's about
choice because of formula? Or are we seeing older kids going out and younger kids coming in?
I think the trend that we're seeing right now is the older kids are coming back into the district, primarily because of the new school, or the new resources. We're losing students in the middle school age. They're leaving because they're looking for a different setting. You know, there are some
Okay.
challenges with our middle school, but a lot of them are coming back at the high school age.
And I attribute that to facility as well as the
I think
great
so.
reputation of our school.
I think so, and I think that once the new building, we may see a real shift in the younger students that are choosing to stay in the district.
Okay,
I think that will grow.
I'm sorry,
I
continue.
think you're absolutely right when you tie it to facility as well, because the trend shifted when the new building opened at the high school in terms of kids coming back and that enrollment growing.
I know how much that is. I'm so proud of my granddaughter, I gotta tell you a story. She went to college. Oh, stop. I could be proud of my granddaughter. She went, I want you all to be proud of that school. She went to a very standard, beautiful school where she's going to school, University of Scranton. She was getting a tour of the biology labs, even though she wasn't involved. And they're talking about all the fascinating equipment. And she says to me, I said, Claire, don't you think that's great? She said, oh, we have that at the high school. Made me feel really proud.
Yeah.
I just want you to know, facility does make a difference
It
to
does.
people, parents that see it.
It does.
Sorry.
And one of our
It was a
other,
good one, though. Wasn't it, Jake? He was yelling at me for talking about my
It
grandson.
was short, it's good.
and one of our other challenges that I will say is, we would consider taking more students into the district, but we are limited by some of the sizes, particularly at the elementary level. Our classes
Well, but when
are-
we get to the new
When
building,
we
we'll be
the
able to
new
get more
building,
people.
We might be able to do that, yeah.
Bill, do you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing in regards to choice? As long as I've been here, there's been a principle that we've accepted school choice students into places where it didn't require us to increase staffing.
Right.
And I thought it was important to say that with a couple of
Good,
new
all right,
members on this
good.
subcommittee.
Yeah.
Bill?
Do we have the numbers of projected choicing in, choicing out, charter out students? I know
next year?
for 20, the fiscal year 20.
No, we don't yet. Right now, we're in the period of time where students are
Making that
applying for
decision.
next year.
Okay.
And we actually choose or draw names on around June 4th for next year,
So
for
what,
any openings that we have. And students that are already in school choice
Mhm.
are allowed to stay in school choice for their entire career. They don't need to reapply.
Reapply every year.
Yeah.
on the choicing out, chartering out, so they went up 18 students last year, combined between the two. And we're saying it's gonna be better this year, we're not gonna have that many choicing out or chartering out, is that what I heard being said?
I think that our numbers, if you look at the projections, I think our numbers have been
Decline.
shifting. Yeah,
Choicing out and chartering out is going down, you said
I
that.
think that.
They've been going up.
Which
Going up?
one?
So I got 107 in 2018, 115 in 2019, so 104 in 17.
Yeah, how's that sheet?
I'd be happy if it goes the other way, I just, it's seeing that it's going the,
But it's not drastic, it's just a few students? Bill?
Yeah.
8 students.
8 students.
8 students between that year and the 3
Yeah.
before, and
Yeah.
Are they in the K-12 grades, Bill?
it doesn't say, it just says,
Yeah, we don't, yeah.
but both of those two
Yeah,
columns
and
are
you-
going in the wrong direction.
Is that data available?
18, well, from 15 to 18, there was 189 to 152 down were, no, and so the numbers were down
For
on
choicing
choicing
out.
out.
Yeah, the charters
And then there
go
was
the
a
wrong
little
way.
bump up in the
Yeah.
following year, but it
Right.
wasn't
Yeah.
Well, I think
significant
people are,
Right.
you know,
with the overall
Yeah.
trend. I mean,
Right.
the line
Yeah.
still was.
Right, and if I could speak to the charter out, the increase up you see occurring at the same time that school moved into
The
the
one
city limits.
on
we
industrial
have
limits.
a, we have a
Yes.
charter school in
Yeah.
Yes,
town.
it's much more convenient for families to make that choice
Yeah,
now,
'cause it's
with it
right
being
there.
right here in town, correct?
I was just curious, if it's going in the right direction, that's great, but,
Okay, continue,
Yeah.
Alice.
thank you.
So
So you
the,
want slide 5?
yes, please. Thank
Oh,
you.
is Peg the slide person?
Good job.
That's
Peg.
delete.
All right.
That didn't work, Peg.
I can't help that. There we go.
There we go. I think Dale's gonna speak to this one because we have so many kind of fixed costs that we
Well-
want to just share.
Yeah, I think it's important just as an overall statement relative to this breaks down the budget as to the percentage in each of these categories that the Department of Education asks you to track your budget by. And as an overall statement to this, I would say that most of you probably know that schools are very labor-intensive places. So 85%, that's sort of a round number, but 85% of a school's budget is the people who work in the school. And those labor contracts are negotiated every 3 years. We currently have a contract that has the labor contracts going up 4.5% over 3 years. So we don't have any control of about 85% of the budget. In addition to that, there are other categories that we have very little control over. One being transportation, that's a contract that's negotiated, goes up a certain percent every year. Right now, our contract goes up 3% every year, little control over that. Operations and maintenance, I'd point out to you, we have, as you know, aging buildings. We find them more expensive to run every year because things break.
Which was a selling point in the school.
Exactly. So, you'll see, that go up every year. And then tuition to other districts, that includes
That's a
student.
13% increase?
No, that's the
13%
total.
Of the budget.
Oh, of the budget, I'm sorry, that's not an increase,
Right.
total budget.
And what it includes is those students who are disabled to the degree that they need a specialized placement outside the district. It also includes the students who elect to go to vocational schools, that the school district is obligated to pay those
It's not choice students?
costs. Choice is
That's not
not
choice.
reflected here, no.
Choice and charter is
In the
the
city.
state assessments.
State assessments, got it,
Yeah.
okay.
It's not part of the
Yeah,
budget.
right. Right.
Nicole,
So I guess my point with this is,
Nicole had a-
oh, sorry.
So when you're looking at tuition to other districts, right now, we're looking at a governor's proposal. The assessment would be $2.5 million. And for the Senate, it's a little more, 2.564. And then the House went to 2.565,059 for the assessment. So there's been a correction as we get each version of the budget. It hasn't gone to conference yet. where we're seeing an uptick from the 2.3 to 2.5.
No, that's a different, those are different tuitions out. That's an addition to what they're spending within the school budget.
Yeah, that's our
This-
Smith Vogue line.
This just shows the ones in the school budget, which are vocational and special education.
You're talking
It's
about
not
the charter
or
and
choice.
I think
Yes,
they're called.
yeah,
All right, we'll get to that, I guess.
yeah. Can we have the next slide,
Next one?
please?
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Want me to do it?
I can do it.
So we just wanted to give you a historical, I think this is for my benefit as
I
well
love
as
it,
yours.
I love it. Keep going.
We did have one good year in '16. We had some real challenging years, but the last few years, I think it's worth noting that we have consistently asked for around 2.5%. We haven't always gotten it, but that's what we've consistently asked for. We did ask for that last year, and we received 1.79. And this year, we asked for 2.52 requested, and the mayor's proposed budget is 1.76. So, you know, those are a couple challenging years that build on top of one another, particularly if you look historically at the last 10 years. We've eliminated quite a few positions in our district. And some have come back, and, but we've still taken some hard hits, as I'm sure all departments have across the city.
One of the things that I'd say about this, one of the mandates when I came aboard as business administrator in fiscal year 15, so the fiscal year 16 budget was already built when I got here, was there had been a history, I was told by the superintendent at that time, of vastly fluctuating requests to the city in terms of funding. One year it would be 9%, then it would drop to 5%. The next year it would be back up to 11%. So one of the things that we've been very thoughtfully trying to do is to make our requests predictable year to year, sort of control budget growth year to year. And I think this shows that we've done it. And a major way that we have done it is to very thoughtfully use the reserves to offset the request. So in this current year, fiscal year 19, we used $1 million. We intend to use $1 million of the reserves to help balance our budget. In fiscal year 20, we're upping that to $1,250,000. It's been going up steadily every year
Can I
because
ask
we've
you
been
a
able to build the reserves and then use them in a thoughtful, planful way.
For the rest of the counselors here and for anybody watching, tell me where those reserves come from, each element that goes into the reserve.
Sure. The two big sources, one is the school choice tuition.
It's coming
Choice
in.
in.
Choice in,
Yeah.
that's one big one, and that's been going up. So it's been, we've had more revenue coming in.
And you can't,
and
what's
we've
your
been thought-
anticipation for that next year, or do you not put that in the budget? Do you anticipate at least as much as you had last year when you do it?
We're actually anticipating at least as much
Okay.
revenue coming in, yes.
Choice in is one part, what's the other part?
Another is Circuit Breaker, and that's a reimbursement program from the Department of Education for very costly special education students.
Okay,
And then there are another category that I will call miscellaneous, and it's things like the bus fees, preschool tuition. It doesn't come close in magnitude to the revenue that we get in those other two sources, but it's another small pot of revenue we get every year.
Is this not this figure right here?
Yes, yes.
And the last one is grants.
so given that, there's a difference of $131,443 between the mayor's proposal and your request.
Right.
Is that gonna come out of your reserve in your anticipation of how you're gonna cover that? Or you haven't decided?
No,
yet?
we've already allocated 1.25 million from our reserves, and that,
To get to the
to get to the
2.52.
2.52. And so that really depletes what we have.
I'm asking how you're gonna cover the difference then.
We don't have a plan. We're going to be
We're gonna need
eliminating.
to make cuts.
We're eliminating
You don't have any
positions.
more reserve.
Additional cuts.
Additional cuts.
We don't have any more
Additional.
reserve. my question is, do you?
No, we do, but we want to make sure we have at least 1.25 to apply next year. And we want to make sure that we have enough to cover any, unlike other departments that can come back for a supplemental appropriation during the year. Historically, the reserve has been looked to take care of those things. And things happen. We put a budget together based on what we knew in March. Things can change between March and September. You can have an emergencies, particularly with aging buildings. So we need enough for that, and also enough to be able to be sure we can apply $1,250,000
One thing you,
next
yeah,
year.
apply $1,250,000 to next year.
Yes,
You want to maintain as a base level, if I'm understanding you correctly.
at least that, so
That's
that
what we're
we
using.
don't have to come
Fund,
back with
yeah.
a bigger ask next year.
So if you dip below that, it's going to affect your next year's budget.
Yes.
Correct.
But I want to say something. We have funded school supplementals. We fixed the boilers one year. And just as we just did the fire department, they had an unanticipated $250,000 need, something like that, for unanticipated retirement and overtime costs. We funded that. That, to me, is an emergency need that I think we will always fund. I mean, we haven't denied this.
$131,000?
All I'm saying to you is that supplemental appropriations, you just said that you traditionally haven't come to the school, the city council. It has happened before. And this counselor would certainly feel that that was appropriate. If you had an emergency, sudden sped or something like the boilers blowing up, I don't have a problem with that. And you just have to convince the mayor not to dip into that 1.2. Now, I know that's a give and take, but that's the way it is. But if you come to us, this counselor, I know that most counselors recognize that that happens. We have to deal with the fire department's $250K, so that's just me. I just want you to know that this counselor will certainly look at that favorably. And that's where our free cash, our stabilization comes into play when we have that kind of an emergency. That's why
Right.
they're rainy day funds.
Right. Well,
I'm only
that's
saying
good
that
to know.
because I want you to know that that's happened before, because I heard you say traditionally you haven't gone that route. Well, I do know we paid for the boilers. That was a big, I think you were here, Dave, for that.
And
We
what
had to
I
do it.
understood the distinction was with that, is that it was not in service of students. That other kinds of emergencies, say a special education student moved in mid-year in a very expensive outplacement,
That was at a different,
that would need to come out of the reserve.
and that's a policy decision?
Yeah.
Mayor, do you want to respond to that?
It may be a policy, but it is certainly an ask the school department can make.
In other words, other mayors may have said no to that, but that she's saying it's an ask. She
I would
feels she
also
can make.
point out that school choice tuition in is not something that the city can access. That is specifically for the school
It
department.
doesn't go to the general fund.
No, it does not.
Correct.
Right.
And it's not, we cannot access it.
And neither does the circuit breaker money. That doesn't go to the general fund. It goes right to you.
Correct.
Correct. So all I'm saying is that that's, as things change,
Yeah.
administrations change, that's a route that I'd like you to think about before panicking, okay? Yes.
If I may just make a comment that'll maybe remind you of something. So the reserves are not just for the emergency situation, they're a reimburse account, if I understand correctly.
Yes.
So essentially if if we budget an amount and then at the end of the year don't end up getting that amount back, essentially that money has been spent and needs to come from somewhere, but we are then in a position where it's not there. So it's a projection into the future that there's no guarantee that that's the exact amount that you're getting. So that's why budgeting more from the reserves is such a risky proposition as we get to the end.
One of the reasons, in a very practical way, just to give an illustration, that I'm looking at those reserves so carefully in regards to fiscal year '20, is we know that our circuit breaker we're gonna reach a peak of reimbursement in fiscal year '20, and then it's gonna fall off. Because we have students who are outplaced who are very expensive, who are graduating in each of the next years. So the amount that we're gonna be getting in is, we know is gonna drop. Choice, you can't predict that in advance because parents can move kids at the drop of a hat, but at least with Circuit Breaker, we know that we're gonna drop off after fiscal year 20, so.
Somebody else wanted to say something?
Well, so perhaps the,
I apologize, I don't know everybody's names. I don't remember
sorry.
everybody's names. I'm
Maren.
old.
it's okay, yeah.
Maren Gold.
Marin, sorry.
Yeah.
I do know
School
you.
committee member?
Yes, I do.
So maybe then what I'm understanding, particularly what Jonathan is pointing towards, and this is how my understanding was coming to the city council tonight, is around and you mentioned this as well, the fire department is coming forward to ask for $269,000.
That's for 2019 funds.
Right, so that's basically like they had unanticipated funds, and that's what's causing them to come back
Unanticipated
to you.
expenses that they didn't
Yep.
recognize.
And so just from, I'm understanding what you're saying, then that's potentially what we could come to, back to the city council to.
You go through the mayor, however.
To the city
But-
council then requesting that if something like that happens where we aren't getting as much money back and we're having more expenses because we have a special needs student who comes in who costs more money or things like that.
My understanding of the nature, and the administration, Mel and Nicole can speak to this. But if we have money in our free cash, we've been able to build that up, which is a return from every year of people not using all their budgets. That free cash account is designed to help any department that has an emergency, including the schools. If we have to do it, and I don't know how you want to respond to that, but I believe that's the route that you certainly can go. Mayor?
Free cash is used to build out the capital plan.
Of
I would
course.
also say, on a guarantee of amounts, there's no guarantee that the city has of the amount of taxes collected, Chapter 90 money, or the amount of local aid.
Yes, that always changes.
So to the point of what is going to come back as far as tuition or with the circuit breaker funding, it's really the same challenge that the DPW faces with Chapter 90 money. While I appreciate the arguments and are a great supporter of the schools, there's a fairness and an equilibrium that must be struck. The assumption of the schools to fund at 2.52 is, and then to make up the difference or plead here that they have to make up the difference in revenue is a policy decision on the school department, just as it is in DPW with their enterprise account. Sure, I would love to have the ability to grant every department 2.5% increase and have that go up from this year going forward, but there must be some equilibrium. We also are looking at additional costs with the 32B settlement that I provided to the city council for tomorrow's meeting. That's up an extra $130,000. And of that, by no fault of the school department, 56% of that cost goes to the school department. It's just, they have the most employees. It's something personal. It's just the reality of what it is. So
And that's not in the budget yet.
It is not. It
So
isn't.
that's, and once that's funded, it'll on go.
Yes.
And it'll continue. It's-
And it is mitigation well-deserved by pay plan employees, retirees, and those in collective bargaining units. It is not something of a grudge, but it is a fact. It is a fiscal fact. And we are already down on Chapter 90 money. And we are already down on local aid when you compare those dollars to what we got last year. And we will hope with the best in the conference committee.
And 70 is down too?
70 looks down for the current funding formulas that we are looking at for East Hampton. What they are focusing on and adding additional money to, East Hampton just happens not to fit in any of their priorities.
Great. Chapter 90, everybody knows what Chapter 90 is? That's fixing the roads.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah. I'll
Allison.
just- yeah.
We're just interrupting you as we
But I'll
go.
wait till you.
Yeah, no, let me just do, I'll do a few more slides, and then if you want to take a break.
Well, I don't want to chime in because.
No, why don't you finish your slides and then we'll just go around the room.
So I wanted to give you a look at the per pupil expenditures, and I've listed them high to low in this region for you to see. This is the 2018 data, which is the most currently available data on the Department of Education's website. It's through a tool called DART, and you can put in any communities you want and compare them to your community. So you could do like communities across the state, but I didn't think that would resonate as much with you as probably some of our neighbors would. And you can see that East Hampton is third from the bottom. Overall in the state, according to the Department of Revenue, we are the 20 lowest per pupil expenditure in the state out of all communities. And that was 2017. We may have moved up or down, but we're around 20. Yes, please. So these are a couple things that, because I am new, and you may not have an idea of kind of what we're looking at in the school district, these are the priorities that we have identified in the school district based on different factors. Number one, equity, diversity, and inclusion are at the forefront of our work. There's a lot of reasons why, not least of which is the Attorney General's report, and we really want to embrace that work. And it's something that even though the Attorney General identified an issue at the high school, we feel that it's a pre-K through 12 issue. It's actually a national issue, but we're looking at addressing it across all schools.
And I see in your summary that you've added to diversity, equity, staffing, $49,000.
Yeah, I'll get
That's
to
part
that.
of it.
I'll get to that.
But that's part of it.
Yes. And every educator should have the resources, supplies, and curriculum necessary to teach our children. Again, that's a baseline given, but it is a value that I think we need to make clear to the community. And number three, technology is a critical investment for our students' future, and we must have a plan to maintain, update, and increase technology acquisition and use. We are sorely behind in technology in our school district. It's caused an impact to
Even
our
in the high school?
students' scores. Yes, even at the high school. And the challenge at the high school is we haven't replaced technology since the new school was built.
You mean like computers?
Yes. And so we need a plan to continuously upgrade technology, because that's the responsible thing to do. Many of our colleagues in nearby communities are moving to one-to-one models. We're not anywhere near that yet. So I firmly believe that we need to address our technology needs.
Can I just add, when we met with NEASC, they were very concerned about that. The whole
NEASC is
committee.
NEASC is the High School Accreditation Board for New England, and they came and did a site visit recently at East Hampton High School.
I bring these up because we're being
Yes.
videotaped. I want everybody
Thank
to
you.
know when
Okay.
you bring up a name that.
So the proposed investments that, if we had a 2.52% budget, would be to invest in technology, focus on providing support to integrate technology in the classroom. And I will just say with that, I know we have a new school coming in 3 years, and we will have a technology package. But if we put a technology investment off for 3 years, our kids will be that much more behind everyone else. And if we don't train teachers to use technology, our students will be behind, and our teachers will be behind. The diversity liaison, in the original Attorney General's report, it was cited that we needed to hire a full-time person. That has never come to fruition. We started with a 0.5 diversity liaison prior to my coming here. This year, we moved it up to a 0.7. My ideal would be to move it up to a 1.0 next year. So I am looking for that. And I'm also looking for the fourth box, contracted services for ongoing equity work. Again, we have when we initially started doing our work around equity after the Attorney General's report came out in August, the budget was already set. So they piecemealed money together from professional development from different resources. Last year, again, they never extracted out diversity work in any line item. It's been piecemeal, $1,000 here, $1,000 there. It has never been fully funded. And when I say fully funded, there are mandates in the Attorney General's report, such as having a discipline audit. That costs us $10,000 to have an outside company come in and do that. But that's what the Attorney General's office is mandating. It's an unfunded mandate. So that's what we're looking to, I asked Dale to extract all the diversity pieces out and put them in a separate line in our budget so that they could be seen. We're looking to purchase a new K through 2 math curriculum because it's time, the standards have changed. We need to keep up. We need to give our students the curriculum they need. And focusing on vertical alignment. Years ago, we stopped funding any kind of stipends for teachers to discuss curriculum across grade levels. It's becoming more and more important, particularly as we move 4 schools into 1 building. Teachers have to be on the same page. So would you hit the next button? Because I just want to, you can hit the next few X's. 2 more. So if our budget, whoops, you went one back, one too far, that's okay.
Hi, Carol.
Wait, one, don't want to give it away.
I think that's as far as you have to go. Stop right there. I just want to point out that one of the questions you asked is how are we going to make up the difference between the 2.52 that our committee approved and the 1.76 that the mayor has proposed or recommended. We would have to make some cuts or eliminations to what we're proposing to grow there. So those are things that we would not be able to fund.
These are the cuts you're
These
recommending
are
to
the
the school
cuts
committee.
that I am recommending to the school
And
committee.
that's
That, no,
$131,000.
that's not totally 100, and that's probably about,
Piece of it, but.
that's, yeah,
We haven't
probably
reviewed all
about
that quite yet.
40,000
Okay, good enough.
of it. So now you can go, yep, yes.
What exactly is a diversity liaison?
The diversity liaison is the Attorney General's report mandated that we hire someone in district that could serve to kind of oversee the diversity work, that particularly at the high school. So we have someone that works, not full-time, 0.7 FTE at the high school. She coordinates all the events around diversity that we have. She has a diversity activities for students during the school day. She runs a diversity center, which is a safe space for students to come and discuss diversity issues. She's a resource for teachers and parents. She does a lot of family engagement. So those are just some of the things that she does in our district.
Thank you.
Mhm. So, budget drivers, I thought I would point out just a little bit more clarity for you. The staff negotiated raises, including steps and lanes, amounts to $307,000. Foster care transportation has not been discussed, but this is an unfunded mandate. That's why I highlighted it for you. When we have children in this community that are put into foster care, the state mandates that they remain in their school from which they came, which means that we alone are responsible for transporting them. We currently have a child that's in foster care in Greenfield that we transport here every day.
So
And
why
this-
is she coming, that person coming here?
Because they are an East Hampton child that was placed in foster care. Foster
Oh,
care is
okay, I understand
always
now. Okay,
perceived
got
to be
it.
temporary. So they don't want to, change their settings and their structure. But this is $88,000
For
that we
one
have to.
student?
No, we have
Okay.
several.
Several, okay.
Several. But this is money that we have to come up with, so that's basically 1.5 teachers that I'm going to have to eliminate in order to come up with that money, because I don't have that money. The diversity liaison and the associated work, I wanted you to see exactly the person and the things that they do that are related to diversity is currently around $86,000. If we're doing it all as we're supposed to be doing. Again, excuse me, an unfunded mandate from the Attorney General's office. They didn't give us funding to support that, but they expect us to do it. We have a grant-funded staff member in the IT department who's part-time. That grant ends this year. So we were hoping that we could absorb that person into our district budget. She works with teachers in teaching them how to use technology, and she works with children in how to teach them how to use technology. But again, we don't have the funding for that. Increased transportation costs, that's out of our control at 3%. And of course, aging buildings. So those are things that we're keeping in our mind as we develop the budget. So our proposed budget, just to remind you, was $17,667,000, which we were asking for a $434,000 increase over last year. The mayor's recommended budget is $17,536,095, and so the difference is $131,000, as you've identified. And this just kind of, I think, encompasses what Dale already mentioned to you, because we knew this would come up, district-generated revenue. After reviewing anticipated receipts, status of current operating budget and trends that affect our FY21 operating budget, we believe we can apply up to $1.25 million, which I think is the most we've ever applied to the FY20 budget. Doing so, we want you to know we will use up to 81% of our available funds, leaving a balance of $295,000, we anticipate, if we do not have to use any of that to balance FY19.
Are you expecting a deficit in 2019?
We are hoping not. We've
We're
been
hoping not.
very cautious this year. And just in conclusion, the last slide,
But let's just say this clearly, though, that's best case scenario, is that
Yeah.
0? The worst case scenario that we just reviewed could be up to 100,000.
Yeah.
So there's still an unknown factor here.
So I just bring you back again to our mission statement where we started. One sentence in our mission statement I think is important. We are committed to providing an excellent education for all students. That's what EPS stands for. And so that's what really is, coming to the forefront of all of our discussions. We really are doing the best we can with the limited resources that we have. So I'll answer any questions that you have, or Dale will.
Cindy wanted to say something.
I just wanted to chime in with just a little bit of history. Previous to Mayor LaChapelle, we negotiated a contract of salary increases at 2.0, right?
2% increase.
2% increases. We are bound by that contract to continue to pay that out. And so if we get a 1.76 budget, that's not going to cover that 2% salary increase without causing us to let people go. And teachers drive a school. You need to have quality teachers, quality staff, and para-educators to drive that school to keep the quality of the education up. We just can't meet that. So I have a question. You talked about supplemental appropriations. I see that coming up on your, for your meetings is meeting the police negotiated contract increase. And so you have some, like 85,000 proposed as a possible
Can I
appropriation.
stop you a second?
Yes.
You guys are all looking at us as if we could appropriate the funds. We don't have that ability. We really don't. We approve the appropriations. We approve the budget. We approve the supplementals. Now, I know there's a big debate between you and the mayor about how we can fund the schools, but you're preaching to the choir. My grandkids go to the schools. I want you to have every penny you can get and more. But I also know that people out there scream at me when they see potholes. So I want you to know what the council's up against, okay? Personally, I'd love to write you a check right now. I can't. I really would. But you're looking at me as if, I get the impression as if I'm the one saying no to something. It's not the case.
No.
Believe me.
No, but what
I'd
we're
love to be able,
asking-
but I know that that's a debate, and this has happened for the 22 years I've been on the council. Schools take up a lot of the budget,
We do.
and there's been a lot of debate between the mayors, all the mayors, as to where we're gonna fund them and how much. One year, 2008 it might have been, we lost a ton of teachers and everything.
Yeah.
because that was a bad year for the state. My argument to all of you is your argument is with the state. Chapter 70 charter school and choice funding mechanisms suck, to be honest with you. And that is something that I'm hoping they're changing. I'm optimistic. However,
You concur.
I just want you to know that I'd love to be able to do that, but I get the impression, it's just an impression I have, that somehow the council is gonna say no to you?
No.
We don't have that, we're not gonna, certainly not, this council's not gonna cut.
I don't think we're in battle with the mayor, and we're not coming to you as opponents. We're hoping that we can get the mayor and the city council to come up with some help for helping us to figure out how to make these ends meet. So I guess all I'm asking, and I didn't even realize that we could possibly come to you for these appropriations. I mean, the mayor and I talked last week, and I did not realize at that time that this might be a possibility. So what I'm asking tonight is that a possibility? Could we figure out a way to make the ends meet by doing a supplemental appropriation? We're not
Yeah.
asking you
Again.
like you proposed it already, we're asking because we just got this information.
Okay, it starts down there.
Yeah.
We would certainly, I wouldn't, we have rarely said no to an appropriation funding from any mayor, as long as it's the budget, it's balanced, and it comes from a source that she feels, she, Karen, Mike, whoever, said, hey, we can do this. As long as it's legitimate, I don't remember saying no to one. I mean, we've, maybe a few times, but all I'm saying is that has to start in our charter, in our form of government, it has to start with the mayor. And I don't wanna, the other thing I have to say is that what I don't want, I know I've heard it from Allison, we don't want departments in this community feeling like one, the council or somebody is favoring one over the other.
Absolutely.
Everybody's
We
tight,
agree.
not
We
just
agree.
here. DPW just said we had a $20 million hit coming for infrastructure improvement. These are things that are happening all over. So
Right.
that's what we're hearing from everybody.
Correct.
And we hear you, believe me. I'm speaking for these two counselors and all the counselors here, but I know that we hear you. Sorry, I get off my soapbox now. Shut up. Mayor.
If I may, so, regards to the police issue before the council for tomorrow, last year, May 23rd, May 23rd, 2018, note in the budget book, I notified the council that the police contract, the CBA contract, was not finalized. I did not know what that amount was and said that there would be an appropriation coming before the end of fiscal 19 to make full on that budget. As far as policies, again, notifying public and the council, October 2018, I very specifically put into action fiscal policies that led to an increase of our AA to AA plus bond rating, saving the city millions on the $50 million school bond that we will pursue. To look at appropriations, supplemental budgets is something that is not looked favorably on DOR, not to mention the bond ratings. Our bond ratings and Standard & Poor's guidelines. We need to go back for another bond rating in 2 years to finish up the school. I would be very concerned, given our forecasts of new revenue in the next 2 years, to approve for any department such a supplemental amount. I feel, just to pivot on this, and I agree that departments, I don't want any department to feel neglected, but many of our departments are looking at unfunded mandates. We have OSHA requirements that will come down for the police department and the fire department and the DPW. They've already started. We've allocated them no new dollars to meet those unfunded mandates. And we just don't know completely what they're going to cost. We are scrambling to apply for grants, but we know the grants will not cover what we're looking at for OSHA requirements for those 3 departments. Also, we're fighting over the pie that we have. I feel that I have upheld the unwritten practice and tradition of giving 2/3 of the city's receipts to the school department and then having the other departments put together their departmental budgets. This community voted, I think, for two things very significantly. One, the real answer to this is to increase our revenues. We voted overwhelmingly for cannabis, and that revenue is starting to come in. It is helping us keep up with inflation, and that is my anticipation until we see that new revenue flow. Number two is that we voted for a new school, and we're looking at a $5 million increase in our total city budget because of that interest. Not to punish any department, it's just a fiscal reality that this is something we need to do. In the next 5 to 8 years, we'll be putting on many more housing units as well as 300,000 square feet of redeveloped mixed-use commercial land that will go again to increase revenue. That is our way out of this. To depend on the state to redo a Chapter 70 or 90 or any kind of formula, I feel is unrealistic because we see more and more the state and even the federal government is pushing a lot of financial burden onto municipalities and looking at local receipts to pay for things that we never anticipated paying, whether that's the unfunded OSHA or that's circuit breaker or foster care transportation. And I think that's important for the city to realize how strong, that when we go forward together, we're stronger. It's not about denial, it's about looking at the pie that we have and getting very creative, as we did with cannabis, as I assume we will get with social consumption on cannabis, the Airbnb tax, and other forms of taxation, as well as an increase in what we collect on local receipts. That's one of the reasons why we adopted the budget process we did, to do more accurate forecasting, to assign dollars where we need it. The increase of 1.76 is not something arbitrary, but is something our financial team spent a lot of time looking at what was sustainable with a lot of unknowns among the departments, but also the city.
Okay, thank you. I don't know where to go from here, except to say, we're on your side, we're on everybody's. I am. Can I ask if the other counselors have questions? Let's get to that. First, JP and Bill, do you have any questions or anything you want to add? Peg or Tom, since they're looking.
I'm just curious, so I know that the budget is split into what appears to be 3,000 and 3,001. 3,000, I don't know the difference, but, so, we track separately on the cities. So if you look at the appendix, you'll see the school committee's approved budget from them with all their details. On the city side, we don't track it to that extent for our reporting to ours. We report to the DOR, and then the school department does a separate report to DOE, and it's far more involved. That's where all the detail is in the appendix, and the budget prepared by Dale and the superintendent. So for us, we have to report what is considered net and non-net spending. And so usually what we put as it moves around as the number will move around, but what we put in there is usually the transportation cost expenses, that 900,000 or so, and that is something that they know today how much money they're going to spend that is not directly related to students' education. It's just an obligation cost, but it's not allowed to be counted as part of education. Transportation.
So it doesn't get like spread over by per student head.
I have to double check if there is a report where we estimated the per student head amount in the appendix. Okay. What it shows the net school spending, non-net school spending, and then per student cost, and I think there's a per student cost for both categories.
Okay.
Valerie prepares that, but it is in the budget. And then at the end of the year, we true up what it would cost and what they actually.
Okay.
Thanks.
I hate to bring up a tough subject, but do you have a meeting at 6 o'clock?
Yes,
I
we
I do have a question before.
Real quick question if you could, because they have 5 minutes, I think.
Sorting through everything you presented, and I appreciate everything you presented. It looks to me like the important issues are your FY20 proposed investments and what's going to be lost on those investments if something doesn't shake out. And that would mean that your diversity worker, the diversity efforts of the city concerns me greatly, that we meet that requirement. Your
They will not be
Okay.
expanded. We're not going to grow them.
Well, we're not meeting the expectation
That is
that was
correct.
laid out in the Attorney General's
That's correct.
mandate. And
Correct.
whether it's a funded or an unfunded mandate, I think we're obligated to meet those expectations, and we ought to make every effort to do so and figure out a way to do so. And I look to the mayor to join us, and somehow we need to work that one through. The K through 12 math curriculum,
K through 2.
K through 2
Yes.
math curriculum
Yes.
change, and there was one other item that, or one or two other
The
items.
IT staff,
The
remember,
IT
that was
staff,
grant funded?
yep.
That will,
That will, so those are areas that I'd love to have that magic wand also, and if we
I know.
can find it, then I would want to see those areas.
There's no grants from the Attorney General's office? I mean, they tell us to do these things, and then they don't give us any money.
correct.
So they're saying, okay, but you're gonna have to cut a teacher or something to pay for
Correct.
them. That's their thinking. That bothers me. Sorry.
As a matter of
Really, I agree with them. I agree that we need them. Absolutely agree with JP. But the fact that they don't wanna help us? Huh? Go ahead, Tom.
The other piece,
They wanted to hurt.
What, Tom? I'm sorry.
They wanted to hurt?
Yeah, and the Attorney General is trying to, is putting like mandates down. They don't want to give you money to do stuff that like, that's not their point.
Well, I don't know. I think they can help communities by funding the things that they presented as necessary.
In the first year of the diversity work, there was a Safe Schools grant from the Department of Education that funded the diversity coordinator at 50% that very first year. And that funding was only for a year and dried up. So
Can't
since
afford it.
then, it's been moved to the budget.
All right.
the other issue was the $88,000 in school transportation for
Foster care.
foster children who are being transported to the city. I understand that was a change in legislation.
That is
That
correct.
the state made, that.
I didn't even know
the
about that.
Apparently, correct me if I'm mistaken, the state had said the sending district was responsible.
Was split,
Was split
50-50.
It
50.
used to be split.
Split 50/50, and now the state said, no more. It's going to be the
Great.
Home district.
home district that absorbs the entire expense. So there's another $88,000.
I don't, you want
That's
to send
just
somebody
changes, sir.
upstairs to let them know you'll be right up? Is that, I don't know, JP, Bill, do you have another quick question, or?
No, I mean, everything. Thank you for the presentation. A lot of it was answered. I took a lot of notes and, you know.
Thank you for listening.
School actually.
Absolutely, it was beautiful.
Absolutely has my support in anything in the future that you guys need. If we can help, I will.
Thank you. I really appreciate
And
it.
the other thing about being on a tape, which I love that we're doing, is that the people want to know what your issues are. They're going to listen to this, because, you know, unless people are informed, they don't know those issues. You have one more, JP, before they leave?
No,
Tom, or? All right, well, thank you.
so much. I appreciate it.
This counselor is not going to vote to cut any part of the budget, so.
Bill won't either, because his kids are coming into our school
That's
district.
it. Billy starts next year.
You guys
Thank you all. Have a good night.
You want to wait on voting on this?
I have a lot to absorb there
Yeah,
and think
yeah.
about and evaluate.
We're going to go to debt and interest as soon as, thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, bye, Nellie, thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Mary.
I hate saying that. I just wish we had the money, I really do. What are we gonna do? All right, debt and interest. What page is that on? Anybody have?
152.
Yeah.
So just to get it out of the way, while I stood there, 50 East Nog is new, is obviously the general fund.
Excuse me, wait a minute.
No, no, wait,
150.
152.
Let me get there and then start your speech again. Sorry.
It's just a correction, not speech.
Oh, whatever. Correction. Go ahead.
152, Payson Avenue office building is obviously general fund. So it's the general-
It's not enterprise?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a mistake.
God. I thought maybe we were
That's
sneaking.
not broken out by division, enterprise portion, and municipal
We
portion?
do that in the enterprise cost analysis.
For the municipal building,
Yes.
But that's operational. That's
Right.
not debt and interest.
Right.
but not for the debt and interest, isn't broken up.
No.
No, that's because this is for the cost of the Basin Avenue building when we bought it.
Yes,
Right.
it was the cost of when we bought it, but how we occupy it and use it is also divided into.
But that's what the operational budget does. I think that's what you
Yeah,
need.
the operational budget does, but the debt and interest portion stays.
Well, we
with the
can't get away with, in
municipal-
other
with
words,
the
he's
municipal
asking, could we
side.
get away with that? Putting some,
Could some of that be charged?
No.
Since it's occupied, it's office space used by?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's like 5 people here.
it'd be hard to do.
5% of the building, 10%.
So we are seeing the first part of the
Trying to be creative.
50 million, or this year, is that in the budget?
In 2020, yep, so the money was borrowed last month.
Geez, what's that like borrowing $50 million?
It's a little scary.
Yeah,
It's very scary.
very scary.
And so,
Is that way I saw the posting? No, just easy.
so the reason we went from 2,332,000 to 6 million is because we're paying on that.
Yeah, so it's over $4 million in payments for that. And then,
Hmm? This is, no, it's, keep it. Sorry, Melissa, that was rude. Go ahead. The 4 million, it's 4 million starting this year for,
yeah,
okay. What's coming off the rolls, anything?
not this year, no.
We're close on Payson, huh?
We are close on Payson. Did not make a note as to when it come off. It might be 21 or 22. But I can get that for you for the council meeting. But everything else is on there for a while. These temporary notes, they are design work for either the high school or the middle school, depending on, there are 2 of them. They'll be done in a few years. When I close stuff out, design work is the 240, the State House knows the 200 is the closeout of the high school, when we had to borrow the last of that, the secondary borrowing after the 14 million.
Okay.
And that's,
And when we're calling the new middle school Maple School Pre-K to 8, because that's what they call it.
that's what they're calling it at MSBA. You can name it whatever you want.
Well, no, but just so people, when people ask, that's actually the new school, because that's the 2,150,000.
Right, because the application originally went in under Maple School, and so far as MSBA, who's paying for a good portion of the building, is concerned, that's the name of the project.
That's what it is.
Because we started with doing Maple, then they said, let's do them all and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay, we have a few excluded ones.
Yep.
That might be going off soon.
But
No, not really,
but everything there, the only excluded stuff left right now is school related, either the high school or the new school.
Yeah, because 50 Payson was general fund, it wasn't. We didn't do a debt exclusion to buy that, we bought it direct,
Yeah,
right?
and the 32 Payson was split between general fund and excluded, and that closed out a couple years ago.
Mhm. How many more years in the high school? Like 10, something like that?
Probably, the certain said
15.
15 or.
Yeah. Oh, that's true, it's only 5 years old. What am I thinking? Okay. I can dream.
A question, Chair.
Yes. Okay.
Are these numbers, and you maybe said it, but I dozed off, are these estimates, or are these best idea, or are
So
these locked and loaded?
The only ones that are estimates is, I'm estimating interest on the 2 bands. Well, it's 1 band that I am taking quotes on tomorrow. The 2 temporary notes, one is for design work for the new school, and the other is equipment. Fire truck, fire ambulance, DPW truck. They're all lumped into the temporary
Interest on
note.
Bands, yeah.
The bands, that's what the bands are?
Temporary notes, yeah, and then interest on bands. And so that, the real estimate there is the 45,000 between the 2 of them. I split them because some of it is excluded. I'll know tomorrow if I'm wrong.
Okay. Our total debt must be something like, what, 80 million now or something like that? Is it in here someplace?
Next page.
Oh, I didn't
Oh,
turn
there we
it.
go.
81 million, I did a good guess.
Not bad.
Huh?
Not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good guess.
I've been here a while.
Yeah.
Well, there's 50 million for one little item we just decided, so.
Yeah.
And you did bond that, and we bonded 5 million for the design, so we have 55 million out right now? Is that what am I writing? Did we bond 5 million temporary for the design phase of the new school?
No, so we borrowed a temporary note of $4 million.
4 million.
Several months ago, I think January or February, in anticipation of the bond. That $4 million short-term borrowing will be paid off July 1st. And it's being paid off from bond proceeds of the 50 million. We didn't catch it.
Is he kind of rolling it in? Is that what you
Yeah,
call that?
yeah,
Rolling it in?
yeah.
Okay.
And so then we still have, the rest, we'll have to borrow
10 million more sometime, whatever
10
it
or
is.
15, depending on what it is. And the only reason I say 15 is because with the way that the state reimburses, especially they hold a retainage, they hold money back at the end of the project, and we may need to pay our bills and wait for them to audit us before we get the last million. And so we'll have.
So we borrow 5 million more than we were supposed to borrow, and then we pay that back when we get the reimbursement.
Right, so we might have to ban that for a year while they close out the project, just for cash flow purposes. That's an awful lot of money for the city too,
And that's too bad, because we have to pay the interest on that. They're not gonna pay it, are they?
and it is significant.
And they're not gonna reimburse us for that extra money.
No, they're
While
not.
we wait for them to reimburse us.
No, that's not how it works.
Doesn't sound fair.
Well, please submit as promptly as possible. You can submit once a month. Michael, my office is doing that, and we usually get money pretty quickly, as I recall, from the high school project. It's just that I know that with the high school project, we had some timing where we were waiting for them to do the final audit. What they like to do is pre-audit every time they pay us, so that the final closeout doesn't take that long. But even if you're gonna carry something like $5 million for 6 months, it's an awful lot for the city. Plus, Valerie might get upset if that hit free cash, because we had a deficit in a capital account. So you never want that to span a year where you're waiting for reimbursement on any type of grants. So you would borrow, knowing that we're gonna get that money. It's just a matter of, when.
Right.
This is just, am I reading this right? So this it shows principal and interest as separate line items because they're the exact same number. Is that correct?
Total.
They're not the same number. Principal, well, it says, it's grayed out, it says principal, 4067971, and then interest, 4067971. Do we have any?
What page is-
What page are you looking at?
152 and 153.
152 and
The
153.
principal total line and the interest total line are the same number.
And are they supposed to be?
No.
You're talking about the graph?
Right here.
No, but on top,
This is interest line and
it's 2
principal
million
line
six. Do you see on the
combined.
summary at the top?
You're right, 2657541, okay. That should be interest?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yep.
You know, I like to add.
Carry the one. You get it?
No,
I don't know where you're looking.
This line right here, the principal line,
Yeah.
is the exact same numbers on the interest line over here. So you get your principal and your interest.
total- the
They're supposed to
subtotals
be,
on.
the
Right,
subtotal
I
of
see
the whole
that.
column.
Yep.
So principal's the 4 million, and interest is supposed to be this 2.6 million, totaling the 6.7 million that you get on the.
Oh, so
total
this
debt.
line should be 2.6 million here?
This one, yep.
This one?
This soft blue colored line, the 4.0, that one,
Here or here?
both. That whole line.
Should be
is-
2.
2.6 million.
Yep.
Okay. All right, I suppose since we found a couple of minor typos, we should get them to the whole council at some point. I guess we could pass them on, the ones we had for the DPW or these. Otherwise, anybody have any other questions on debt and interest? JP?
So, if I read it correctly, we have about $16 million available as possible borrowing to reach our EQV limit of 77 million.
Huh? Yeah.
Page 154, statutory debt limit.
Oh, I see.
The way I'm reading that, with a $1.5 billion EQV, the amount we could borrow as a community is 77 million and change. We're at 60 million, 60 and change. So technically, it's about $16,000 more that could be, 16 million more that could be borrowed.
Why would we want to?
We wouldn't want to. We want to keep it down, but I just wanted to, we're much closer to that EQV limit than we ever have been, for reasons that, you know, we're.
Because of
Right, and
school.
that will
built-
affect, and that was something that we had to discuss when we ran to the bond agency, that our debt to income ratio, basically, this is what this
Getting
is, you
close.
know? It's getting really tight,
So,
But they still give us a good rating.
because we still have room.
And we have good savings, we have structurally, we're okay.
Right, but it's a major factor, so to the extent.
It is
that
with
we don't-
anybody,
We
right?
want that to go down, not up.
Right, and so we already know that we're gonna borrow that 16 million or so already. It's already projected that we'll borrow it for the school. And so we better pay down aggressively everything else we have in order
What
to
about-
to keep it under this
I
number.
keep
I
it
think I
under
know the
this.
answer, but if we have to bond something for enterprise for the sewer water, is that affecting this bond, this
It-
debt kind of
It does
ratio?
affect this, but I can say that enterprise is what's considered outside the levy limit.
Because it's separately funded, it's a user fee, et cetera. So they don't look at that?
They do
If the
look at-
bonding agency won't care about that?
They do look at it, but it's allowable by law if it's outside the levy limit, and so is debt exclusion. So all of it is outside the levy limit, but it's also part of the bigger picture. Yeah, you're allowed by law to borrow up to that amount and over it if it has a dedicated revenue source, which.
Like enterprise.
Like enterprise, or like a debt exclusion. But once you get close to it, they're gonna start looking really closely as, was that wise?
Mhm.
Because even if you have a dedicated revenue source, your community isn't wealthy enough
We're
to
not long
support.
ago.
to be able to support that.
And that's what that's one measure of wealth is the EQV.
CPA
Equalizing.
borrowing is within the limit.
CPA borrow might be outside the limit because it comes from CPA funds. The problem we're gonna have with the project is that it's gonna be a private use and therefore taxable. So I'm not really sure where that fits.
Really? I thought they were a nonprofit, city
It
space.
doesn't matter, they're not a city office. Private
Great.
use. So, so just to know that, it changes how we borrow for it and our interest rate. It'll be a more expensive interest rate for that project. I believe it's outside the levy limit too, but all of those numbers sort of add to this sort of like, how much are we leveraged against our taxpayers? Because all of those are paid by city residents and from no other source.
And we have debt limits for a reason, to kind of set a ceiling for, this is what a municipality of this size and ability can absorb. That was my question.
And I just want to comment around the budgeting process that we've undergone for the last 2 fiscal years and putting into writing what has been the practice of the city around our debt limit and around dedicated cash and where it goes is one, a big part of our bond rating, but it's also a security blanket to some extent that East Hampton is able to take care of its students and its residents and seek new economic growth opportunities. I mean, this is a very measured next 5 to 10 years as far as what we are taking on for debt and where we're focusing it. So I will just say one more time that the measured approach to what every department gets is very purposeful. It is not by mistake, and it is not because it's just easy to say 1.76 to everyone. And the differences in the percent you see in this budget have to do with just the size of the budget. So 1.76 for the schools is about just over 300,000. So this 13%, I think you see in maybe assessors, I think it went up, had to do with, we have a 3-year eval. We know that there'll be some years, one-time costs
Okay.
that we have to do to base that UBQ on.
And so if you look back to, in the assessor's office, this is a trend, that it goes up and then it comes back down. And so this is a one-time, it doesn't build on itself every year. And same with the city clerk's office, there are more elections next year, therefore it will go up.
You're talking about the recap and assessors, that's a one-time thing.
So every 5 years, it used to be every 3, but now every 5 years, they have to do an evaluation.
It is over 5 years now.
Yeah,
Oh.
I can't remember when.
I don't remember when that changed.
But that requires additional support in the assessor's office because they need to put eyes on every single parcel in the city and have the state review it that they have looked at in their 5-year cycle, every single parcel in the city in some fashion. And so much of that gets done every year, every time there's a change where it will go out. But if I, live on Green Street and I haven't done anything to my house and I've been there for 5 years, they'll do a drive-by, they'll, measure the size of the house.
Make
say,
sure it
oh,
is what it's supposed to be.
Say, oh, when did you put in that shed? And,
You're talking they as the independent contractor we hired.
well, whoever's who's ever, helping touch all the buildings.
Okay, all right.
All the
yeah,
parcels.
All right,
Right, because the internal staff can't do a full
Well, not a
review
full
of
recap.
every single parcel in the city. They can, keep up with the building.
we're gonna go over
permits, et
that when we
cetera.
get to general government.
Right.
So, anything else on this, guys? Girls,
When it's plural, it's gender neutral.
guys,
Counselors.
counselors is better. Not at Smith. Doesn't work for me. I get in trouble.
And here we go.
I get in trouble all the time, Peg. It's the way it is. Anything else from the counselors?
That was my question.
Bill? Okay.
Nope, I'm good.
we can adjourn. Next meeting is the 29th. General government, CPA, and revenue. And we're gonna approve all these, make a recommendation.
So that's what you're doing on the 30th? or
29th.
You're gonna go through all of them and do a yay or nay on each one?
After we go through general government, CPA, and revenue.
Then you'll do your voting.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
We are going to have the Department of Public Works back because in general government is building operations.
And should Public Works be prepared to go over the questions that the committee had last time?
I would hope so.
Well, she did send us, did you guys get that email?
Sent an email.
I got an email that I had just created more questions.
Okay, well then we'll, yes.
Okay, I just wanna,
Didn't seem
Make sure.
very explanatory.
No? Okay.
There was another topic. Should I email Joe Pip on that or reply to her email on?
I didn't see that email, so I'm not,
Okay.
I'm not
It
sure.
it was on 2 out of the 3 questions that we had. She
Oh.
did.
I think it would be great if we prepared them for our questions.
No, absolutely.
Don't have them go back and forth.
But do you want me
just-
to reply to this email, or was the mayor contacting them to be in contact? Do you want me to reach out to Joe and just have him highlight those items?
Absolutely, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I'll put you on copy?
Yeah, if you could.
You should
me,
copy,
that's great.
copy all of us, all the councilors.
I'll put you
Just
guys on
remember-
copy.
But if they forgot something, it'll help.
That's why I'm asking if I should reply to that email or just create a whole new one.
Reply to it. because
I'll reply to it.
To me,
You can
that,
always refer to Barbara to make sure.
I'll just start a new one. Play it safe.
you're talking about,
I just don't want any open meeting
Is it
laws.
replying to that
That
part
email.
of your debate, and wouldn't that be not cool?
he's asking for
But I-
information. He's not saying,
He's
I
not
don't-
responding to her questions. in
no,
any way.
because we're not debating between us. She's giving us information. If we started making conversation over that, that would be wrong.
Okay, but it is something, wait, so are there just questions being posed to DPW so that they can prepare an answer?
That's what
Or-
I would think, yes.
Okay, just questions that are going, so they're better prepared on the 29th?
Yes, that would be helpful. And I think she might have forgotten stuff Bill's mentioning, right?
Yep.
So she did answer something on email?
A couple things, yeah.
Copy the mayor.
I'll put you on copy.
And Barbara,
Yep.
or public records, yeah,
Sure.
okay.
All the emails kind of go to me. I am about to, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.